All right, we've got big games on the docket. We know that, but let's get to the lead because there was big news out of Blacksburg this week. Virginia Tech making a move away from Brent Pry. Philip Montgomery now takes over as the interim head coach, and there's a lot to unpack here because Virginia Tech has struggled to be relevant in football for more than a decade now. So it wasn't just Brent Pry. The results obviously have not been there under him, but this is a program that is looking to figure out how do we become relevant again, David. And so there's a couple of things I feel like are important to this conversation. And the first question is, we know there hasn't been a ton of alignment for football. We know the funding hasn't been there. And we know there have been coaching missteps, obviously, because their last two coaches have been fired. So from your vantage point, what has held Virginia Tech football back? Is it the lack of funding, the lack of alignment, the poor coaching? Is it a combination? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you some numbers because, as I always say, reading numbers makes for great TV. Virginia Tech, since 2012, now this is 3 coaches, including 1 college football Hall of Famer.
Yes.
60-70 versus other Power 5 opponents. A .406 win percentage in one-score games, including a 1-12 record under Brent Pry. 39 losses as the favorite in a game. That's 5 more than any other current Power 4 team in that span. And 39-33 at Lane Stadium against FCS teams. That's terrible. So let's unpack those things a little bit here. 60-70 versus the Power 5 leads me to believe, like, over a 13-year span, 14-season span, like, that isn't a fluke. You're just not that good as a program. That you're losing these games at home. You are losing fan enthusiasm. Fan enthusiasm is probably at a nadir in Blacksburg right now, and that is the timing could not be worse for that. But the losses as a favorite stands out to me because it says the eye test says, or our intelligence or expertise, as someone might say about us, not me, but someone might say we have expertise, is that these teams are talented enough to win these games. They expect to win these games, and they're not winning them. So add all of that up. If it's not the talent on the team, and it's been through 3 coaches, and it's not because the fans haven't supported the team, then what is it? I mean, Andrea, I think too much of it is the same thing that we saw at Florida State, at Miami, maybe a little bit at places like Texas a few years back, Nebraska, USC. You're living in the past, man. You got to contemporize.
Yeah, and, I found it really relevant when Whit Babcock got in front of the Board of Visitors last month and said, we have to stop believing we can just keep doing the things that we've done in the past because it's not working, and gave this huge presentation of where Virginia Tech stands just from a financial perspective with their football program. They are over $20 million behind Florida State and Clemson in their football budget. So that's number one that stood out. Number 2, the overall athletics budget is at $122. He's asking for $200 million for them to get relevant. But the third thing was trying to modernize Virginia Tech football to bring it into where it is right now from an NFL pro player perspective, which a lot of other programs have already done. So all of this indicates to me, yes, Virginia Tech has been living in the past. And if you go back to a story I wrote in 2023, it was obvious back then, and I took a lot of heat for this story, particularly from people in Blacksburg, that Virginia Tech wasn't giving the same care and consideration or being serious about football the way that it should be. And it's not just about the funding, as I just mentioned. It's about the alignment. It's about trying to think, we need to do things the way that Frank Beamer did them. That's why they hired Brent Pry, because he came from the Frank Beamer tree, even though he had no experience. And now this is tier 2. It goes to coaching. You hire somebody with no previous head coaching experience, you are going to lose close games the way that you did. You hire somebody who doesn't surround himself with a staff that has the type of success that you expect. This is what's going to happen. So naturally, I think Virginia Tech is in this spot because of decisions that have been made by the administration, by the Board of Visitors, by the president's office. So that leads us to question 2. Is this still a good job, David?
Well, so much of it will depend on exactly what you're going to get in this job. And look, you and I have both talked to some sources who would suggest that this is probably not the end of some house cleaning there, and what that exactly means, we'll have to wait and see. But look, it's funny because I've said for years now how much Virginia Tech feels like Florida State, but 5 years later, right? Like they're going through the same situation. But you go back when Jimbo Fisher came in at Florida State following Bobby Bowden, and look, you can say a lot of things about Jimbo and how things went there, but he was right about needing to modernize, and so many people pushed back because it wasn't the Bobby Bowden way. Well, Justin Fuente came in at Virginia Tech, and again, you can say whatever you want about some of the mistakes that he admittedly made, but there was a rift within the athletic department that said, we don't want to support Justin Fuente. We need our Frank Beamer guy. And so he was set up to fail almost from day one. Like, you can't have that. The football coach needs to come in and have the full support of everyone involved from the top, from the president on down, to be able to follow a vision. When you're following 6 different visions, you cannot win. And so how good is this job? If that's the job, it's not a good job.
Well, and that leads to question 3. Who are they going to come in and hire, right? They've got a committee that's set up that's going to do this. Whit Babcock, the athletic director, is going to be an assisting role. It's unclear what exactly he is going to be doing with assisting. Is he going to be the one to make the hire? Is he not? And a couple of folks that I've talked to about this opening have basically said, I mean, sure, you'd want to listen to them and talk, but until we know whether the alignment is there, what the role of the athletic director is going to be, who is going to raise their hand and take that job? There are so many questions Virginia Tech still has to answer. And oh, by the way, Whit Babcock in a few weeks has to go in front of the Board of Visitors, and they're going to vote about the funding and what they're going to do from a financial perspective about whether they're going to help Virginia Tech football be funded the way that Florida State and Clemson are. And you don't even have to be funded that way, but you have to at least provide some sort of support for football, whether it's more staff, whether it's hiring a guy who has the type of head coaching experience, doesn't even have to be on the Power 4 level, just somebody who's won as a coach, and then help him with the NFL model, bringing in a general manager. If the Board of Visitors goes ahead and rubber stamps what Whit wants this to be, then I think we'll hear from a lot more candidates who are going to say, yeah, I think that's a good job.
I don't know. I'm still, like, just the whole timing of all of this has seemed off. Now, I get how bad things, you can't look like you did the second half against Vandy and get blown out at home by Old Dominion without there being repercussions. But it feels like they're putting the cart in front of the horse here a little bit in terms of the timing. But look, the other thing, and we can't go too far into this, but this has to get right, because otherwise, like, we all know that we're 3, 4, 5 years out from another big wave of changes in college football. And Virginia Tech cannot be left behind. And that's where they're at right now. It is insane that a program that has had that much energy and is that historically relevant is utterly irrelevant on the national stage right now. And also, I'm a little bit sad because now it's just like Manny Diaz is the only truly great hair in the ACC. Now the Brent Pry is gone too. So, you know. Well,
I mean, maybe he can repeat as Beard of the Year award winner, because we also don't have Brent Pry in contention for that.
Yeah.
So that's a sad thing too.
Sad days.
Yeah. All right. Well, Virginia Tech's not the only team that has had a tough start to the season. Here we see some of the